Hi and welcome to Great Getaways. Today we're going to take you on a winter getaway from our past. We've been traveling this great state for a lot of years and we want to bring some of those memories and good times to you. Many of you write from time to time to tell us that you've been supporters and viewers ever since my hair was dark and I had a lot more of it. You're going to enjoy some of our favorite places and what they looked like 20 years ago and how much they've changed or haven't changed since that time. We'll start in Sault Ste. Marie and travel throughout the UP.
Production of Great Getaways is made possible by Rockies Great Outdoors. Located in Burton, Michigan, Rockies carries a complete line of motorcycle, snowmobile, camping, and hiking gear, including canoes and kayaks. State Building Company, serving Mid-Michigan for over 50 years, with quality windows, insulation, roofing, and siding, including complete residential and commercial remodeling. Forward Corporation, operating over 30 complete convenience centers, motels, and restaurants across Northeast Michigan.
In this neck of the woods, you don't let winter get you down. In fact, we like to say, when it gets cold, it gets hot. The Sault Ste. Marie area, under a blanket of fresh snow, beckons children of all ages to come out and frolic. Snowmobile trails crisscross the countryside with pathways for every riding level. Ramble along the riverside or climb to heights for fabulous international views. If slower speeds suit you better, the cross-country trails are plentiful and pleasant. Chippewa County offers over 30 miles of groomed trails on at least 5 different pathway systems. You could go an entire winter without retracing your tracks. Let's not forget all that water around the Soo. It freezes in the winter and makes for some of the best ice fishing around. Muskong Bay attracts shanties from 100 miles away, and you can see why. From here, it's just a short jump across the International Bridge into Sault Ste. Marie, Canada, for a ride on the world-famous snow train.
Visitors to Sault Ste. Marie are in for a very unique opportunity when they visit our city. Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan has a sister city just across the bridge, the International Bridge, and that's Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Together, these two towns really make one complete community. Right now, we are in Sault, Ontario, actually outside of it, traveling northeast on the Agua Central Railroad. We're on the Agua Canyon Snow Train today. The snow train runs every Saturday and Sunday from January through March, and brings you up through the Laurentian Mountains into the Agua Canyon to a turnaround point, and then on the way back. The train obviously is heated. I'm not all bundled up. It's an 8-hour trip, relaxing, and going through the wilderness area. You're right there. And we're hoping the sun comes out today so the guests on the train here can really see what this wilderness has to offer.
The atmosphere on this trip is beyond belief as you sit and watch the surrounding countryside unfold from inside the warm train car. The deep snow swirling around the rocky bluffs and caressing the frozen lakes creates an unimaginable beauty. But rather than talking about it, why don't we just stop for a moment so you can enjoy this trip into the beautiful winter wilderness called Algoma Country. We continue to head west on groomed trails until we come to M123, where we start heading north along the Lake Superior shoreline to the town of Paradise. a town that would not exist if it were not for the popularity of snowmobiling. It offers food, lodging, and gas, along with any repairs that you may need. The rest of the trip into the falls was as beautiful as the start. In no time at all, the sleds were pulling into the parking lot. As you can see, we certainly were not alone. During the winter months, more snowmobiles than cars can be found here, it seems, although the main roads into the park are maintained throughout the year. The trails through the park are another matter. For the most part, you'll have to make your own way. But this is actually easy, as the many footprints from the numbers of people who enjoy this stop quickly create paths to follow. From this point along the trail, the sound of the falls was gaining volume, and we sensed a glimpse coming between every tree branch. The sensations teased us for a few more yards until we received the payoff, the first sight of the giant ice cliffs rising high above the gorge. The mighty falls themselves were still to be seen, but the frozen mist generated by the thousands upon thousands of gallons that flow over them could easily be seen along these cliffs. Perhaps the next vantage point would show us what we had hiked so far to see. And so it did. The hard-packed ice and snow of the lower Tahquamenon River was obliterated by the mighty shower from the towering cataracts above. The golden churning waters of the falls danced about, defiant of Old Man Winter's clutch on the rest of the valley. The second largest waterfall east of the Mississippi. Only Niagara is larger. These falls do not sleep in winter. This bright winter's morning was giving us a wonderful backdrop for enjoying one of nature's wonders. The golden waters glistened in the sun, and the snow gleamed bright wherever it had been dusted. As we admired the views from every possible angle, and we waited to experience a new spectacle from these falls that have already provided so many memorable moments over the years. While one larger float perched precariously across the brink, others washed over the edge, crashing to pieces along the way down. Their broken chunks were churned under the open water at the base of the falls. And too soon, this show of nature was over. As a crew, we've covered this area many times, but none could quite remember sights like we'd enjoyed today. That certainly doesn't diminish our other memories. It simply adds to the reasons why we keep coming back. But it was time to head back. The guys decided to return pretty much the same way they came in. And with the visual treats we were given on the way in, who could blame them? They would be heading from Michigan's grandest waterfall to Michigan's greatest lake as the trails wound them north toward Lake Superior and Whitefish Point. As we've mentioned before, this area is ripe for the avid snowmobiler. This part of Michigan's Upper Peninsula has actively catered to the snowmobile enthusiast. They take the trails seriously and do everything they can to keep them well maintained. They understand it's the only way to keep the great snowmobiling reputation they've worked so hard to achieve. Of course, judging by these scenes, it would be hard to find any fault with this area. Whitefish Point sits at the very end of the road, the only road north from Paradise, and the one which the snowmobile trail parallels most of the way. It's approximately 10 miles from Paradise to Whitefish Point, but in many respects, it could be 10,000.
While paradise enjoys dense woods and a calm harbor of refuge, the landscape of Whitefish Point is quite barren. Sand dunes and ravaged beaches, and a sad history of Lake Superior at its worst, showing no refuge whatsoever. It was due north, off the coastline of Whitefish Point, that the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. And it was that very night that this faithful guardian's light went out. It's only missed one night in over a century of service. We had come to the end of the road, so there was just one thing to do: keep on going.
Traveling through Marquette County is always a fascinating experience, especially when it's by snowmobile. But on today's program, we think it will be more exciting than ever when we make our way north to Big Bay by way of the Burma Trail. From here, it was no time at all until we were zooming into this winter haven for people just like us who can't get enough of these snow-covered adventures. Our favorite place for taking the chill off and catching up with old friends is Big Bay's historic Thunder Bay Inn, and that's right where we headed. The Thunder Bay Inn started life as a general store, servicing the needs of the families in this out-of-the-way village. The livelihoods of the residents were diverse, split between the iron mines, logging camps, and fishing boats, among other things. In the early 1940s, Henry Ford came to town, building a mill to create the wood side panels for his Ford Motor Company's new station wagons. Soon, Ford had an entire logging, milling, and shipping operation in full swing, and it needed some dedicated office and storage areas. Henry Ford bought the general store and turned it into his needed office space. Shortly after, Ford also decided that he really liked this area and he wanted to share it with his executives and friends. Yes, Big Bay was a Ford company town, but when Ford died in 1948, it became obvious that the rest of the Ford family did not share their father's love of the North. The mill soon closed, and the general store turned office and hotel fell silent. It was almost another decade before the rich and famous would again pass through these historic doors, though. In 1959, Hollywood invaded Big Bay as Otto Preminger brought Jimmy Stewart, Lee Remick, George C. Scott, Ben Gazzara, and Arthur Kennedy to town to star in Anatomy of a Murder. UP native, trout fishing expert and author, and past Michigan Supreme Court Justice John Volker wrote the novel Anatomy of a Murder, based on the true occurrences in Big Bay in 1951, when the pleasant resort community was rocked by headlines of rape, murder, and a sensational trial. An Army lieutenant named Coleman Peterson murdered Mike Chenoweth, proprietor of Big Bay's only bar at the time, the Lumberjack Tavern. Chenoweth had raped Peterson's wife, and the lieutenant walked into the crowded bar and shot Peterson 6 times. The lumberjack and the bullet holes are still there. Thanks to the renovation efforts of Darrell and Eileen Small, things are once again hopping at the Thunder Bay Inn, especially on a day like this when a group of snowmobilers comes in out of the cold. You know the guys love their time spent behind the windshields of their snowmobiles, but every once in a while, the urge to step back several decades gets the best of us. A few years ago, we met up with the Bjorkman family, Dick and Angie. They run a business specializing in giving folks the chance to experience an afternoon of old-time charm in the form of a horse-drawn sleigh ride. Now, it seems this little time machine has become a regular stop for the crews when they venture through this way, and so it was this past trip.
Look at the camera. Hi!
through the thickly snowed forests of Dickinson County, the team, complete with traditional sleigh bells, pulled a full complement of happy riders. We've learned that such thoughts as, "It couldn't get any better than this," rarely fly up here in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. That's because as soon as you think it, something comes along to make it better. And today was no exception. In this case, it was a frolicking lunchtime campfire in the middle of the woods. This is one experience we heartily endorse. If you've never relaxed to the sound of jingle bells and children's laughter, or felt the sensation of sleigh skis beneath your seat, do yourself a favor and make time for a real sleigh ride when you plan your trip. You'll discover sights and sounds you've only imagined. Now, speaking of different sounds, have you ever wondered what a man or woman flying through the air at 50 or 60 miles per hour would sound like? Well, it sounds like this. And the cheers reserved for these daredevils known as ski jumpers sounds like this. Welcome to Giant Pine Mountain, home of the world's largest artificial ski slide and the annual Intercontinental Cup ski jumping competition. Over 45 world-class ski jumpers from 13 countries around the globe have converged upon Iron Mountain, Michigan to challenge for the coveted International Cup. Where else have you gotten a view like this of an international ski jumping event? Ladislav Gluhas of the Czech Republic is at the top of the slide. Ladislav is one of the premier jumpers in the world. He was in first place after the preliminary round. And Gluhas lands a jump of 110 meters or 360 feet. Austria's Gerhard Schallert is one of the threats to win this competition. He finished second after Saturday's competition, and he's capable of bettering that mark with a good jump here. Gerhard just betters Gluhas on the jump, 111 meters, 1 meter more for 364 feet. Only one American was entered in the competition. Let's watch Tad Langlois sail over his home country on his final jump of the day. Tad hits a beauty, 375 feet. And do you think he's happy with that performance? And listen to the crowd cheering this aspiring champion. Listen for his name in the next Olympics because it's sure to be there representing the USA. Ready for his final jump is Ketil Moen from Norway. Ketil was sixth after the preliminaries, but has jumped superbly in his earlier attempts today. A great jump here could put him in serious contention. An excellent ride. Ketil Moen of Norway lands at 113 meters, 371 feet in a precise display of ski jumping. Two days of exciting competition and camaraderie had come to an end, and so had our time this winter in Dickinson County. But what a time it had been. Whether it's snowshoeing to a frozen waterfall locked in an icy splendor that captures your imagination, or gliding quietly through a stand of ancient hemlock trees on skis that makes your winter special, Alger County has unparalleled opportunities for the winter sports enthusiast. Covering much of the county is the vast Hiawatha National Forest, thousands of acres of forest land providing enough room for even the most dedicated fan of wilderness. And whether your favorite mode of transportation is by snowshoes, skis, or snowmobile, you're sure to find plenty of snow and the trails to go with it, as this area receives over 200 inches of the white stuff annually. Another of Alger County's most unique attractions is Grand Island and the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. Lying just off the mainland and the city of Munising, Grand Island is one of this country's newest recreation areas. While visitation to the island is highest during the summer and fall, winter brings with it an added bonus: solitude. Although Grand Island is a popular destination for cross-country skiers and winter campers, the cold does tend to weed out all but the most hardy and dedicated of winter sports enthusiasts. The long sandy beaches are now lonely stretches of snow, and the beautiful sandstone cliffs have been veiled with massive curtains of ice. We had hoped to sample a little of everything this area had to offer, but we made a special effort to see Grand Island's cliffs of ice. Jerry told us that the temperature was 10 degrees above zero this morning, and it certainly felt like it outside. We had come prepared for cold weather, though, and thoughts of Grand Island made the nose-nipping air more bearable. While Grand Island is spectacular, it certainly isn't the only attraction in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore worth seeing. The rugged landscape of the Pictured Rocks area has created some other unique features as well. Several beautiful waterfalls can be found within a short drive of one another. And instead of cascading ribbons of water flowing over the falls, you now have frozen ice sculptures radiating every color in the spectrum. Mike, Wes, and the Park Service personnel had finally reached Grand Island. The first stop on the island was at the old East Channel Lighthouse. This wood-framed lighthouse, now privately owned, was built in 1868 and allowed ships to use the Munising Harbor as a major harbor of refuge. Discontinued in use in 1913, it now stands weathering the fierce Lake Superior winters alone. Continuing along the shoreline, the brush-choked edge of Grand Island began exposing itself, revealing glimpses of rock protruding from its banks. Some of the rock layers had tilted and settled onto ledges, which in turn dropped several more feet onto another ledge until reaching the surface of the lake. Maple, birch, cedar, and hemlock trees all fought for position, seeking light and space to grow. The sandstone layers continued rising, forming steep cliffs that towered above us with huge ice daggers clinging to the escarpment, some dripping from hidden seeps, others totally frozen in place. What incredible beauty! The sight of the ice formations had us spellbound. Pale hues of blue and green ice shimmered in the sunlight, beckoning closer inspection. The edge of Grand Island looked like nature's version of a multiple-layer wedding cake. A scenic wonderland? You bet. In fact, many cross-country skiers make the trek from the mainland to Grand Island to see these hanging ice sculptures. Many also bring with them packs for overnight stays of several days, and they really explore the island. Before leaving Grand Island, we had to stop the snowmobiles for a better look at the curtains of ice. Dwarfing our group, these vertical walls of opaque ice radiated subtle hues of color as the sun's rays reflected off them. We were told that as the temperature warmed, the character of the ice walls changed as well. In this way, these seemingly solid monoliths of ice were as dynamic as Lake Superior itself. Gazing back toward the mainland, we could see the same kind of forces at work shaping it, all a part of the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
We'd like to send you a free DVD of today's show. All you have to do is go to our website at www.greatgetaways.tv and fill out a form and tell us what you thought about our winter adventure, and we'll get one out to you just as soon as we can. I hope you enjoyed our winter getaway in time. It brought back some great memories and some chilling experiences. If you like this, then I think you're going to enjoy the new segment we'll be bringing you in 2014 called Then and Now. It'll be a short piece where we take you back in time to what it was like 10, 15, or 20 years ago and compare it to what it's like today. It should be fun. We would like to hear your comments, and if you want to learn more about today's show, you can find the information on greatgetaways.tv. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.